So today we were going to move on to chapter 5, right? We did 1, 2, 3, 4 already. And last time we were on Gyan Karam Sannyas. And number 5 is called Sannyas Yoga. And actually Sannyas Yoga sort of continues with the Gyan Karam Sannyas. And it tries to define what sannyas is. So I remember we were talking last time and we were saying we need to go deeper into like what does it mean to be the doer or not be the doer and things like that. What does Gita mean by that? Because it's very central to Gita. So it clarifies this even more in the sannyas yoga. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that is and then we can discuss. Okay. So the chapter on sannyas yoga says, it kind of defines what does sannyas actually mean. So in the beginning of the chapter, Arjun once again asks Krishna Bhagwan, he says, tell me finally, he says, you're beating around the bush. I keep asking you, should I be a Karam Yogi or should I be a sannyasi? You keep beating around the bush. You're not giving me a clear answer. Can you please tell me once and for all, what is your recommendation? What should I do? So then Bhagwan said, they are both the same, but be a Karam Yogi. Karam Yogi is better. Because to be a sannyasi, it's very difficult. The path is very difficult if you still have a lot of raga dvesha, if you still have a lot of desires and, things that you want to do and, unfulfilled desires. It's very hard to be a sannyasi. And the path of sannyasi is very difficult. To get there is very hard. But the path of Karam Yogi is very easy, according to Krishna Bhagwan. Because as a Karam Yogi, we're not asking you to completely give up this notion of yourself. You start with the notion of yourself, but give your actions to me. Say that I'm the doer, yes, but I'm not doing this to Bhagwan. And why? Because I want to be a Karam Yogi. And why? Because I want to clarify my mind, purify my mind, because I want knowledge in the end. So it's much easier to say, I am the doer, but I will not look at myself and try to examine how am I doing things. Am I doing things in a selfish way and in a small-minded way? Or am I doing things the right way, which is I'm doing things which are the right things to do, and I'm doing them for the right reasons. I'm doing them because I want to become a better human being, a pure human being. And the way for doing that is to do Ishwar Arpan and Ishwar Prasad. Whatever I'm doing, rather than judging myself all the time, am I good, am I bad, am I doing bad, am I, all that kind of thing. Do whatever you feel you can do and you have to do, give it to God and just keep doing. And then also instead of judging, why am I getting all the bad thing results and somebody else is getting the good results, or you are getting some good results and you start feeling proud that I'm so good, see, I'm better. Rather than going through all that, take everything which is coming to you as prasad. It's coming from you, from God. Whether it is good or bad, it's coming from God. Don't, so with that attitude, you start cleaning up your mind. It's all habit. Desires also at the end of the day are basically habit. We get into these patterns and habits. So you break that habit by doing this, by doing Ishwar Arpan Buddhi and Prasad Buddhi. So that was Krishna Bhagwan's answer to Arjun. He said, do that. So that was put to rest finally. So no more questions from Arjun, except in the end about sannyas versus Karam Yogi. And then Krishna Bhagwan also started describing what does sannyas actually mean, which is why this sannyas yoga. So he said sannyas means tyag, means, tyag means, Paula, tyag, Atul, maybe you can help explain what tyag means. It's like giving up on the material things is called tyag. It's sacrifice or not sacrifice, austerity, right? So what does it mean to lead an austere life, a life full of austerity? So what Lord Krishna told Arjuna is that austerity does not mean living in poverty or not having not not enjoying the things of life, not sort of giving up everything and going into the jungle. That's not austerity. That's just another manifestation of desire. According to Lord Krishna, he said austerity means giving up the notion that I am the doer. That is austerity. So if you think that you are the doer, that's not austerity. You may give up everything and then tell yourself, I gave up everything. That notion of doer is still there. So who's being austere? I. Who's doing all these wonderful things of giving up everything and, living a very simple life? Me. That notion of me is still there. I just kind of tell myself that, hey, I'm good now because I'm not running after desires. So who's not running after desires? Me, right? So that as long as that notion of me is there, that is not austerity. It doesn't matter like whether what you have or what the external environment around you is, whether you are in the jungle, in the Himalayas, or at home. None of those things matter. The external environment has no bearing on austerity. Your possessions have no bearing on austerity. Your thoughts have no bearing on austerity. The only thought which has a bearing on austerity is the thought of, I am a doer. So if you assign that thought to yourself and say, I did this, I am the doer, that is not sannyas. So that is why it is so difficult. That's why he said sannyas yoga is so difficult, because to be a sannyasi, you have to be in a place where you can say you totally understand why you're not the doer. It's not because you're forcing yourself to be not the doer. That's not the idea. You can't say, hey, I decide I'm not the doer. That's this is a vicious loop, because then you will have to decide you're not the doer. The only way to get even with this, doership or not, is to know the truth. Are you actually the doer or actually not the doer? It's all about knowledge. A person who thinks he is a doer actually believes that he is the doer. The knowledge of the person says, I am the doer. So to that person to say, no, you from tomorrow onwards start saying I'm not the doer, that's not going to work. That's just like the person knows better. He says, no, I know better. I am the doer. I can see around me everything I've done. If I don't do things, things don't get done. If I don't take care of like whatever is in front of me, it won't get done. So to that person, there's no point saying you're not the doer. It's all about knowledge. The difference with the sannyasi is that the sannyasi knows that he is not the doer. So to sannyasi, if you tell him you're the doer, actually, he'll laugh. He'll say, okay, all right, if you say so, but I'm not actually the doer. I know that I'm not the doer. I can see how this feeling of doership arises. I can see why it's even necessary to have this feeling of doership. I can see why it's important for this world to operate, to have the feeling of doership. I know. But I also know that this feeling of doership, which is so important and so necessary, even in me, is mithya. That means it is not satyam. That means it's mind and form. It's just another thought. It's not me. What I really am is the substratum of that feeling of doership. Right? So what I'm trying to say is, it's not as if Bhagwan Krishna is not saying that you are not the doer. Don't think of yourself as the doer. That is not the right way to think about it, because that puts you at loggerheads with the reality around you. What he's saying is, understand that this feeling of doership is mithya. Just like the world around you is mithya. You can't deny the existence of the world around you. So to say that world doesn't exist is stupid. It's right there in front of us. All we are saying through learning is that that's mithya. The satyam, which is the foundation of this world, is me. Similarly, the feeling of doership also exists. This world will not operate without a feeling of doership. You can't go around, telling people, hey, can you ask your body and mind to kind of do this work or something like that? It doesn't work. The feeling of doership is very important for the world to exist. It's there. Recognize it, but understand that it's mithya. It's not you. That feeling of doership is not you. Its essence is you. So that is knowledge. And when you have that knowledge, nobody has to tell you that you're not the doer. You just know you're not the doer. So that is what sannyas is. So everything comes down to knowledge. So sannyas also means having the right knowledge. When you have the right knowledge, you're a sannyasi. When you don't have that knowledge, when you're still deluded with Maya, so to say, then you're not a sannyasi. At best, you can be a karam yogi. And that's why Krishna Bhagwan kept telling Arjun, you can keep asking me, should I be a sannyasi or a karam yogi? You don't have the knowledge. How can you be a sannyasi? Once you have this knowledge and it kind of gets imbibed in you, you will stop even asking me the question. There is no question, right? So that's kind of the way, that's the import of chapter 5 of the Gita.
Arjun's question of should I be Karam Yogi or sannyasi is apples and oranges, right? They're not the same order. You become a Karam Yogi in order to be a sannyasi.
Well, yeah, you could say that. I mean, what he was saying was, why, if you're telling me that, I am not going to die, my reality is the Brahman, everything is Brahman doesn't do anything, Brahman doesn't say anything, why should I even do anything? Why should I go fight? And you're telling me everything is knowledge. Why don't I just go and just get knowledge? Go sit down somewhere and focus myself into the texts and books and just get the knowledge. That's his question. Like he's saying, you're talking from two sides of the mouth. On the one side, you're saying none of these things matter, and then you're saying go fight. So, and that's a very I would say a common and a very natural confusion that anybody who's introduced to Vedanta will have with Vedanta. Because Vedanta seems to be talking from two sides of his mouth.
And so, also, according to this description of Karam Yogi in the Gita, if everything is, given as an offering to God and all the results are prasad from God, then there is a prerequisite that you must believe in God for that Karam Yogi, right? Like if somebody doesn't believe in God, then that methodology of purification of mind doesn't work for them.
Yeah, but the principle behind Karam Yoga is selfless action. Selfless not in terms of opposite of self-hate, but like trying to look at yourself not as the doer, if possible. So this idea of Karam Yoga to kind of do it as with God is a very simple technique for those who believe in God. For those who don't believe in God, what Sanjay was talking about 2-3 sessions ago, which is think of yourself as a witness. That's a technique. So, but it's just a technique. If you don't believe in God, then, you got to find another technique. And there are many, I was telling you the other day, that direct path thing. There are many such gurus and approaches and so on. You don't have to follow the traditional Vedantic approach, which is based on some sort of a concept of Ishwar. So that was, I just want to quickly say that, and then maybe I'm going to, if anybody wants to talk, please feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to go around the horn again, and put you on the spot.
What's the significance of this austerity being defined the way Krishna defines it? Because it seems to have taken it completely away from what most people would consider as,
Austerity.
or yeah, you know.
Yeah, because he's this is the philosophy. He's trying to tell you that the philosophy is not about giving up on things, of giving up on life. The philosophy is about knowledge, the right knowledge. So everything points to that. So austerity also is about the right knowledge. When you have the right knowledge, you will become simple, you will become austere, you will, all that will follow. This is not about just using your will, trying to lead one lifestyle or the other. It's a combination of the two, because Karam Yogi does lead the will. So he's saying that till such time that you have the knowledge, follow some discipline, and the discipline is Karam Yoga, and that will help you. But the definition of knowledge, or the definition of a sannyasi, he's not saying you do that right now, but he's defining the sannyasi is one who has knowledge. So I'll actually, I'll rather than just me saying, because it helps me to read this in black and white in the Gita. So I'm going to show you one. I'm going to show you one mantra of the Gita from chapter 5, and that it'll come from another more authentic source. Let me see. I can't share my screen. Huh? Okay, can you see my screen, guys?
Yes.
Okay, so this shlok, the one that I have highlighted in yellow, so I'll just quickly tell you what it says. It says na eva. Naiv means na eva. Kinchit karomi iti. That means iti is a way of putting quotation marks. Instead of putting quotation marks in Sanskrit, you don't have quotation marks, you just say iti at the end. That means somebody else is saying it. So somebody is saying na eva kinchit karomi. I'm not doing anything. So here it is. I do not do anything at all. Karomi means I do. Kinchit is something or anything. Na eva, nothing at all. So he's saying, I don't do anything at all. Iti. This is how a yukta, which is a yogi or a accomplished person, tattvavit, which is someone who sees reality. That means a sannyasi. That means a gyan karam sannyasi. Someone who actually knows manyet. Manyet means this is how he should think, or he would think. Manya, means mananam, thinking. So naeva kinchit karomi iti yukto manyet tattvavit. So this is how this person would think. Then he says pashyan, shruvan, sprishan, jigran, nashan, gachan, swapan, shwasan. He just keeps going. Pralapan, visrijan, grihan, unmission, this kind of thing. So what he's saying is, Pashyan means to see, seeing, listening, touching, so I don't do anything at all. While seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, walking, sleeping, breathing, talking, releasing, grasping, while I'm doing this, I'm also saying I'm not doing anything. I don't do anything at all. Knowing fully well that organs are engaged in their objects. So indriyani indriyartheshu. That means the indriyani, the different organs, sense organs, indriyartheshu. Indriyarth is the object of. So for example, if it's the eyes are the indriya, the object of the eyes are something to see. The thing that I see. Vartanta iti dharayan. That means I know fully well, knowing fully well that the objects, the sense organs, they do their thing with the objects of the senses. If I have eyes, they will see. If I have nose, it will smell. If I have brain, it will think. If I have, mouth, it will speak. So this is what I know. I don't do anything at all, knowing fully well that the organs are engaged in their objects. So like whatever it is, what he's trying to say is that whatever it is that is making that action happen or making that thought happen will happen. So for example, there is some, and this is what I was trying to tell you last time, we should get into the mechanics of it. There is something called an I thought. This feeling that I have that I am the doer is a thought. This I thought happens. It's the most natural thing in the world for me to think I am the doer. This I thought happens. Why does it happen? Because I have a brain and a mind. This is the way the world has been designed to function. That I will think that I'm doing this. I will think that I have to do this. I will suffer. I will be happy. You know, all this happiness, suffering, action, everything happens. But then along with it, an I thought emerges. And we have a way of associating that I thought with all these things which are happening in the domain, in the locus of our body and mind. So that will happen. Why does it happen? Because I have a mind. So he's not saying stop the I thought. He's not saying force yourself to banish the I thought. He's saying realize that this I thought is happening because it is a like he says, indriyani indriyartheshu. When the indriyas, the organs will do what they are designed to do. To me, this is beautiful because he's saying that just realize the reason why you are seeing things as why you are seeing yourself as the doer. Once you realize that, you will have the distance. You're not going to change anything. You're not going to change any action. You're not going to change any thought. You are just going to have the knowledge that the doership thought is coming because of this natural reason. But it's not me. I'll tell you a very interesting example, which my son told me once. He was talking about, we keep talking about these psychological diseases and things like that. So he was telling me once about OCD, which is an obsessive compulsive disease. So in OCD, you just are forced to, you just do certain things. You get a bad thought, and then in order to, in your own mind, to compensate for the thought, you do some action. So like some people they will say, oh, I did not shut the door. So they'll go 20 times back to check whether they've shut the door before they left the house. Or, there are many such things that they do. And this OCD is very compelling. It keeps coming. You can't help it. So one technique of addressing or managing OCD is to begin to realize that OCD is a disease. And when OCD as a disease occurs, you have to tell yourself, when you're doing this is the disease, this is not me. What this action is happening is just, it's my OCD. It's not me. So then you start creating a little distance between that OCD, the thing that you do, and yourself. Because the stress that happens is when you say, why am I doing all this all the time? Why can't I control myself? Why can't I be better? Why can't I do this like this? That is what causes the stress and the grief and the sorrow. When you realize that this is just the way it is, this is the state of your mind. Like you can't, let's say you are born with 6 toes instead of 5. You're not going to think, oh, I don't know, maybe that's not a good example, but things happen to your body, you fall sick, you contract COVID and you're sick. You're not going to start blaming yourself. Oh, why did I have, what's wrong with me? Why did I get COVID, right? You got COVID because this is what happens when you expose yourself to the virus. It's like that. When you expose yourself, when you have some struggles in your mind, when you go through some bad experiences, one way your mind deals with it is through OCD. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It's just the state of your mind, right? You deal with it. You figure out a way to do it. There are many things which are good about the mind, many things which are bad about the mind. It's the same thing like here. You will feel that you are the doer, and you will have to believe that you're the doer. You'll have to do things as a doer. But you know that doership is a property of the mind. It's not you. This knowledge is what Gita is trying to convey. Actually, this is, if you look at everything, I told you, Gita is all about karma. So Gita is all about work. And actually, it is all about karta, not just karma. It's all about doership. So the knowledge of Gita is about how to do work in this world, how to engage with this world, and it can be applied anywhere, at your work, anywhere, whatever you do. It's about this knowledge of how is doership happening and how to keep yourself detached in a way that doership is not going to make you feel that either you're the doer or you're going to go up and down with your mind, or you're going to die with the mind, or you're going to, it's a detachment from that whole complex, the mind-body complex. It's actually the mind, body, and the world complex, all three of them together. So there's a detachment from yourself.
But the detachment is also done by the mind.
Yeah, the knowledge is given to the mind.
Yeah.
And the detachment is done by the mind, and the knowledge is given to the mind. And the mind begins to realize its own reality as Brahman. All this is happening in the mind. Even Vedanta is knowledge. Knowledge is all in Maya. It's all in the mind.
How does this sync with the karmic cycle then? Doership and karma.
So, Mukta, thank you. That's a great question, by the way. I mean, at least you're thinking. Very nice. So, yes, that's a very good question. How does it? Because remember, I told you all this, karmic cycle, karma, good things, bad things, right things, wrong things, birth, rebirth, all that. All that is vyavaharik, right? Vyavaharik means those thoughts or activities or those things where you are an individual. So for you to have karma and for your karmas to be fructified for the future, for you to be reborn, you have to be an individual. You have to think of yourself as an individual. You cannot, if you think of yourself as Atma, the question won't arise about you being reborn. Then the question in your mind would be, will this body and mind be reborn? Right? That I am attached to right now. Whatever. So the way to resolve this thing about Vedanta is to first understand that there is a lot of guidance which Vedanta gives from a vyavaharik perspective. That means how to live, what to do, or all the knowledge about karmic cycle. And there's a lot of knowledge that Vedanta gives about the paramarthic perspective, which is I'm none of these things. So think of this as a stepping stone for a person who is completely absorbed in material world, who has no doubt that he's not even thinking, or she's not even thinking beyond what he or she is seeing, what he or she is feeling, what he or she is experiencing right now, and is completely in the ups and downs with it and everything. For that person to tell them, hey, you're none of these things. You're Atma. It's very hard to understand. Right? So it's like the same thing that Krishna Bhagavan said. That will be like telling Arjun, go do sannyas. So Arjun will do the motions of sitting down and knowing in sannyasi, but he will not be a sannyasi. He can't be a sannyasi. For that person, Krishna Bhagavan told Arjun, be a karam yogi first. Be a karam yogi. All of these things that you talk about are part of what I would call, or what Gita would call, karam yoga. Because the purpose of all of these things is to bring stillness to the mind. I mean, I'm going a little bit out on the limb here, because this is based on my understanding and interpretation a little bit about Vedanta. So, take it with a pinch of salt. But if you really think about it, what happens when somebody tells you that, you had a past life, because of that, you're getting what you're doing. You have a future life. So whatever you're doing right now, or whatever anybody else is doing, they will be paid in the future. What happens is your mind becomes still. Otherwise, there are a lot of questions. You will be caught in this. Why am I being targeted? The world is so unfair. Why did I get all these bad things? What did I do which was wrong? Right? Or look at those people. They are doing all the wrong things, enjoying themselves. And I'm doing the right thing and I'm not enjoying myself. I'm living in, whatever, austerity or poverty or whatever. Your mind will be full of these thoughts of unfairness, restlessness, all that. And those thoughts completely demolish any chance of coming to knowledge. You can't come to knowledge when you're complaining and cribbing in your own mind. To get knowledge, you have to be at relative peace. You have to be at a place where you have enough understanding of the world, enough understanding to say, okay, these things about the world are not bothering me so much anymore, neither on the plus side nor on the negative side. And I think, to me, this idea about past life, future life, and all that, which may even be correct. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I have no way of knowing. But it has a definite purpose of putting our mind at ease right now and guiding us towards knowledge, towards relative peace. So everything that we do, everything that Vedanta suggests, Karam Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, you can take everything it suggests. You'll find that the underlying theme of it is trying to get your mind at peace, trying to remove the restlessness, either through knowledge or through your actions. You want to work, you want to do work, you're restless, you want to work. But try to say, I'm doing it for God, and the result is coming from God. You have so much emotion, you want to love God. It'll be a love, and without any expectation, it'll be unconditional. Knock yourself out. Love God. Bring peace to yourself. And if you want to think, and you're constantly worrying, and this is this and that, all that, like, why is this happening? Why is that? What happened to the, some scientists also are always thinking, why is this electron like this? Why is not like that? What is the cause for this? What's the cause for that? These all things are bringing restlessness, right? So it's saying, think, and it's giving you a way of thinking, which you could call Gyan Yoga if you want to. And that's another path for getting your mind at rest. But that's the whole purpose of the Vyavaharika path, which is the sort of the intermediate path between being a complete sansari and being a sannyasi. The intermediate step, that is all about getting your mind at relative peace, so that you can have some chance of really getting the knowledge and really knowing that all these things which I had so much, I used to worry so much about and used to ask so much about, really are not me. It really doesn't matter.
But at Vyavaharika level, come what may, when you are transacting, you have to think of, the mind is always busy, and it's not really, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's very difficult. It's a big challenge to keep the mind at peace.
Yeah, it is a challenge. But this is what we are given,
उसके लिए
right?
I think Mukta, I think that's what they tell, कि for keeping your mind at peace all the time, you have to develop that 3-channel pathway, that you see yourself working at 3 levels. One is the body level, one is the mind level, and one is the atmic level, which they call it you have to become the drishta of your mind, drishta of your body. Then only you can remain at peace. If you are constantly looking at your mind and seeing what your mind is thinking, the thoughts are coming, and what actions you are taking. If you can distance yourself away from the mind, you can get a lot of peace and a lot of clarity in what you do.
That's a big if.
That distance has to be created. You're always on the, you have to make a gap connection with your mind rather than working at the mind level itself.
Mukta, that's why they say,
You get it. You have to
I
try
get
to
it.
watch your
Understand
mind.
it. I understand it. I understand fully what you are saying, and I get it also. But
Yeah.
to actually practice it,
Practice it. I started practicing 1 month back, and now I am seeing the results.
Okay.
You have to create that gap of observing your mind all the time.
Okay, let's see.
No, Mukta,
It's a beautiful exercise actually to create that gap. It's a subtle exercise, but giving me a lot of results.
So what do you do,
That's
Sunil?
great. If you have been able to do it, it's really great.
Dheeraj, you just have to be aware. You have just raise your awareness level and do things a bit slowly, and really you have to be aware of all your actions and your thoughts.
I mean,
And
it's a big,
then
big
slowly
picture.
that gap is created. Yes.
I agree. But big picture, that's why they say that the one of the prerequisites, they say, is mumukshutvam, which means a desire for knowledge. And that desire for knowledge becomes so strong that it becomes the motive force which takes you through all of this. See, at the end of the day, in fact, actually, I wanted to talk about this. I don't know whether there is time. I'll tell you, because I was talking to Kiki about this the other day, about, is there any logic behind what Vedanta is saying, right? At the end of the day, there are two options, if you want to think about it like that, of reality. What is real? What is actually happening? Maybe we'll go into this next time. It's going to, as I'm thinking about it, it's going to take too long. We've got 15 minutes to go. Instead of doing this, why don't we do what we had initially planned to do, which is, so we heard a little bit from Kiki, a little bit from Mukta. Atul, Paula, do you have any thoughts on what you have heard today, or any questions or anything?
Do you? No, I'm just listening. No question.
And what do you think, Paula? Does it make sense to you?
Before Mukita asked, I was questioning the same question. How does karma or dharma has to do with the doer or no doer, Because if you do good things or if you do bad things, because you can just take the responsibility out of it. God did it. Right?
I know.
It's not me.
It's not me.
It's not me, exactly.
Exactly. So a lot of wars and everything, killing. It's just
So by the way, that feeling is a reflection of how our ego works. Because you have this feeling that if you take the responsibility out of it, you'll do all the bad things. In reality, that is not so. It's not as if you are this supercomputer who's sitting controlling everything and has ownership and thinks, hey, I'm keeping my mind and body in control. If it wasn't for this super me directing everything, I'll be going haywire. Right? This is, if you think about, if you think about the whole thinking right now of distributed learning or distributed, things that are going on in the internet, right? Wikipedia. So you imagine if before, like 20, 30 years ago, Britannia Encyclopedia or somebody who used to write the book of knowledge, right, would say, if I had removed the editorship out of this, people will be writing all kinds of crap. It will never work. But no, actually it did work. Wikipedia has been much more successful. I mean, Britannia, Encyclopedia Britannica is out of business, you could say, pretty much. And all over, you'll find instances of this. You'd think before democracy was invented that democracy would never work. If you just let people make the choice about who will come or who will not come or whatever, it will never work. Someone sensible, educated has to make a choice. I know better. I'm educated. It's the same feeling which is telling you, if I leave everything to God, and if I stop, controlling everything that I'm doing or thinking or whatever, I will do the wrong thing. Actually, in fact, you might end up doing even more right things than you're doing right now. Because you will stop thinking about the consequences. Our natural instinct is to do the right thing. When we think too much about the consequences, and when we start strategizing, we often end up being worse. It's like Atul keeps telling me, Atul, you tell me, right? Don't try to game the stock market. don't try to sell when you don't think you know better. You don't know better. It's actually very true. Every time I tried to time the market, I've just done much worse. So that's just an example. But I'm saying, give yourself the freedom to let yourself do what your instincts are telling you to do, and you might be surprised. Actually, I'm so glad you asked this question, because this is, if you ask Carol, the person who I talk to all the time, this is her key message. She keeps saying, leave it to God. It'll work out. It won't. It's not as if things will not work out if you don't leave it to yourself. But that requires that also requires some, it's not easy.
A slight digression on this point. That, when you talk about, in theory, democracy should never work, or, when too many people if you leave it to people, in other words, if you democratize things actually do work, but intuitively, logically, it doesn't seem to be that way. Yes. But in that regard, one of the management principles that we always run into is, when too many people are responsible, no one is responsible. Yes. So I'm wondering if that also needs to be, broken apart.
So, there are a lot of management theories like chaos theory and all that, which are trying to experiment with that. So far, I think that hasn't found much.
It is still considered the right thing, that you make one person responsible, and there are too many people. If more than one is responsible, that means no one is responsible.
Yeah. But, it depends also on what it is that you're doing. So depending upon the product that you are, or the service that you're in, and what you're doing, that's true. There's also a lot of emphasis now on decentralization. For providing good service, you have to give a lot of freedom to levels way down. You have to basically give up on control and trust that train those people and trust them that they will do the right thing. So there is that too. But I know what you mean. It's not like these analogies can only go so far.
Yeah.
But actually, that is a very good point, Paula, because really it is this sense of, I am controlling my own destiny. And if I let go, I will be like, that is the big stumbling block. No, and the stumbling block, not because of any other reason, but because of knowledge. It's because we don't know better. That's why we assume like this. I'm not saying that you start doing things completely the opposite way tomorrow. Please, as they say, you have your own, you make your own recommendations. वो IBD कहता है ना अतुल, it says we are just an educational firm. Please don't base your stock decisions based on our recommendations. Look at your own personal situation, talk to your own financial advisor, that kind of thing.
I was just thought just crossed my mind right now. Once we are all Maya, animals are Maya too. And animals don't think much about they doing things, So probably the essence go better through them or no?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Who knows?
But I think what Vedanta will tell you there is that animals don't think; they are just going like they are going.
Going with the flow.
They were happy they're doing what their thing, and that's why, by the way, animals don't get any karma assigned to them. There's no karma. So karma is only assigned to human beings because human beings have a choice. Animals don't have a choice. So, but Vedanta puts it in a different way. It says that because you're a human being and you can think and you have a choice, you have a problem, but you also have an opportunity. And the opportunity is that if you employ your mind the right way, with the right knowledge, to get the right knowledge and employ it the right way, you can know your own truth. And when you're there, when you're knowing your own truth, this comparison with animals will go away because those animals are not different from you. Whatever you were trying to compare yourself with, you will see as part of yourself. You'll see as essentially you. There is no, it's not like, oh, I wish I was an animal, I'd be happier, or anything like that, because you're happy already. There's no grades to this happiness. It's not like more happy and less happy when you are a sannyasi, or when you are a jnani. So maybe now that you are a human being, maybe think about it as an opportunity rather than wish that you were an animal.
Oh, yeah.
Other thoughts?
In fact, I wanted to say just a little while ago when you said ki you leave, things will work out, like we don't keep thinking too much. I have always believed in this, and my gut feeling always says this, कि ऐसा नहीं है कि we don't have to think about it or plan about it. We do have to do that. But when we are faced by a problem, we always find a way out. I mean, I used to say it कि God will show us the way.
Yeah.
कि वो हम करते तो अपनी प्लानिंग से या अपने माइंड से थिंकिंग करके ही करते हैं, बट वो रास्ते निकलते आते हैं.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, I have believed this way back. I mean, always.
Yeah, it's your personal experience.
Life, yes.
It's my personal experience too. And it's experiences like this which make you believe that what Vedanta is saying is right. If your personal experience was different, then this won't be a fact anymore, right? Then you're just forcing yourself. But this is a fact. So you'll see this happening in your personal experience if you just look for it. You'll find these pieces.
I relate it very well to it.
Yeah. So it's not saying, again, like you said, it's not saying don't plan, don't do this, don't focus. Do all of those things. But do them as Ishwar Arpan Buddhi. And the result that is coming is Ishwar Prasad Buddhi. So you will be more active than ever before. You will try to forecast things. You will try to anticipate things and solve them. You'll try to do your best. They'll be full of activity. But not stressed. Not stressed, because you're not putting the whole burden on yourself for success or failure. It
I
does
would
not.
disagree a little here.
Okay. Why, Selvi?
Because whatever, like what I am saying is, even before Vedanta, getting into this and studying and having the knowledge, I believe this fact कि every problem का solution, I mean, वो रास्ते निकलते आते हैं.
Right.
And it has happened. I mean, I always believe this.
Yes.
पर ये कहना कि stress नहीं होगा, उस सारे रास्ते में stress भी अपना time और अपनी जगह लेता है, and then you find the
Okay, that's a good way to think about it. Yeah, that's fine. है तो ठीक है.
Yeah.
नहीं, पर वेदांता यही तो सिखाता है कि मतलब वो तो ठीक है, बिलीफ सिस्टम इज देयर, बट आपको स्ट्रेस लेने की जरूरत नहीं है ना. वेदांता स्ट्रेस लेवल कैसे घटाना है, दिस इज व्हाट वेदांता इज टीचिंग अस.
Yeah, now I understand, and you are practicing it already.
See, I would say the way to reduce stress, because there is no way to reduce stress. कैसे कर सकते हैं reduce stress को, right? Because अगर तुम stress के बारे में कहोगे कि मैं stress नहीं होना चाहती, वही stress बन जाएगा. It's like, you can't sleep at night. So you try thinking, oh, I should sleep.
नहीं, इसमें धीरज, one thing has to be understood कि actually stress है क्या? What exactly is stress? Is there actually stress, or is it a created thing by our mind? You see, you have to see the difference.
Yeah.
Because stress is being created by our own mind.
Right.
And if we can learn to tame our own mind, then there will be no stress. And if you have, after so much experience, if you have so much faith in God and His doings, कि कोई ना कोई रास्ता निकल ही आएगा, then I don't think there's going to be any stress.
No, Sanjay, I think what she's saying is, like, what you're saying is right, but to get to that place, right?
Yeah.
So we are talking
that's
about
what
how to
Vedanta
get to
is
that
teaching
place.
us. To get to that stage, yeah.
Yeah. So one way to think about how to get to that place, which might help,
so
is to
this is the difference which Vedanta has made in last 3 years, I think, in our lives. कि अब वो जो stress level is very low. Even if we are faced with difficult situations, we have that strong faith in Brahman, Ishwar, and our thought process. कि yes, everything will be taken care of, and there's no need to create stress.
Yes. No, that's very good.
Just made Dheeraj very happy, Sanjay.
I don't take any credit for this, okay? If Sanjay, this is like...
No, it's just knowledge.
It's
just your knowledge and thinking about yourself and the mechanisms which work.
Right.
You see, what creates stress, you have to understand the mechanism where stress is being generated. You see?
Yeah. Now, and the only thing I'd add to that, Mukta, is that one thing that some might work is to not fight the stress when it happens, but to see it and acknowledge it as mithya. Just like everything else is happening in this world, this stress is also happening. It is a result of your mind's activities. Yes, like Sanjay said, some minds are more prone to stress than others. Some minds are, they can take a lot of stress. Your mind has its own whatever peculiarity it has, and it gets the stress of whatever it gets, whatever it is, the pluses and minuses of your mind. But that's what it is, That's what you've been given. You can try to remove the stress to the extent possible. To the extent you're successful, that's great. To the extent you're not successful, it's still mithya. At the end of the day, you just have to, that you are Brahman. That is the thing. This you have to find it and keep grabbing it as much as you can.
Actually, a small incident is coming to my mind. It just happened yesterday.
Okay.
अब कोई स्ट्रेस वाली कोई बात नहीं है, पर एक नया कुछ आपको टास्क मिल गया, मान लो. There's nothing to be stressed about. नया टास्क और कोई काम आपको, कोई रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी मिल गई करने के लिए. और कुछ नहीं है उसमें,
नहीं,
you can, I can do it. I mean, there is nothing to worry about it or to, या मेरी तो ऐसे भी अगर ऑफिशियल बात करें तो मेरी तो सिचुएशन ये है, मुझे जिस दिन लगेगा मैं उस दिन रेजिग्नेशन देके आ सकती हूँ. I don't even have to wait or any notice period or anything. So there is no point of taking any stress at the professional level. पर मेरे साथ तो क्या होता है कि लाइक इवन स्मॉल थिंग, अब जैसे कोई टास्क एक दे दिया गया मुझे, कल परसों में एक बोला गया कि ये वाला सारा आपको देखना है. Yesterday night I just couldn't sleep. I mean, for no reason. I am not thinking anything. कुछ नहीं, मेरे को कोई कुछ नहीं है, but I sleep. I mean, at my time, my biological clock is good. I sleep. But in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and then I'll be just tossing and turning for 2-3 hours. फिर जाके कुछ सोचना कुछ नहीं, but something will keep going on in my mind. Now it is going on subconsciously. I can't control it. I will just not be able to sleep. So what is that? How do you, at that moment you can't be witness of your things.
No.
You are
At
trying
that
to
moment,
sleep,
at that
that's
moment,
all.
at that moment, you just take a sleeping pill. You know that'll do the trick. or understand that maybe it's your age. You know, I also can't sleep these days a lot because umar ka taqaza bhi hai thoda sa. If I don't do enough walking and exercising during the day, my sleep goes down by 2-3 hours. And a little bit of
Okay.
stress can cause more damage these days than, can cause
Yeah.
more sleeplessness. That's just the way of the world, Mukta.
Okay.
Actually, I am very
No,
similar.
actually discussing all this, that just came to my mind कि अब कैसे आप वो सोचोगे मिथ्या है, उस समय ये सब नहीं याद आता.
But I was going to say, Mukta, I'm so similar to you, and the one thing that has worked for me is just to say, don't try to push it away. Just accept that it's there. Nothing is like, I think, and then because in trying to push it away, it builds on itself, So if it's anxiety or stress, for me at least, what works is to say, oh yeah, look, there is anxiety and stress. That's it. If it makes you not sleep, okay, like Nittu said, take a sleeping pill. Or
No, I won't take a sleeping pill. I don't.
Not even try to push it away. Not even.
But Mukta, तूने 3 घंटे कम सो गई तो क्या हो गया? So,
कुछ नहीं, सुबह फिर सारा अगले सुबह का साइकिल सारा बिगड़ जाता है. Then you get up
हाँ.
late and then everything goes.
तो ठीक है, तेरे को क्या प्रॉब्लम है? थोड़ा लेट हो गया तो.
Problem कोई नहीं है. Problem कोई नहीं है. But those 3 hours are very discomfort. Discomfort है और
अभी
कुछ
तो
नहीं.
देखो क्या क्या डिस्कम्फर्ट आते हैं. Another 5-10 years. This is nothing.
वो तो जो है सो है.
So
जो मुक्ता की सिचुएशन ये बता रही है ना, लास्ट 2 महीने में मेरे साथ 4 बार ऐसे हुआ.
वो देखो, after all the benefit of Vedanta, he hasn't slept.
Listen, you are listening to half the story. Then the moment this thing happened, I tried to do meditation lying down. In my bed, I tried to do meditation. Okay. And within 10 minutes, I was back to sleep.
Good.
That is, I think, the best way to go back to sleep. Try to meditate.
Mukta, sometimes I used to listen to Carol's lectures while lying down. I used to go to sleep in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You can replay this video. You'll go to sleep.
Listen to Sir Priyananda, listen to Carol, listen to all this Shivani Devi, and you'll immediately go to sleep very fast.
Vedanta has many benefits.
But even I tried meditating, and even that put me to sleep very fast.
You're lucky, you can sleep well. That's good. And you've also been working the whole day. You're busy, at your office and stuff like that, Sanjay. Fighting Delhi traffic. Yeah. Chalo. Anything else? Shall we?
Chalo.
So next time we'll have more time, because next time actually we are going to go to the chapter 6, which is Dhyan Yoga. And that now it's getting more tactical, So Dhyan Yoga is really more, and then we can also talk a little bit about what I was going to say about, you know, what is the essence of Vedanta? What is it saying compared to, and then whether, you know, whether we believe that what it's saying. It's up to us. Chalo. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Gita.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.